Good day, everyone, and welcome to episode 63 of This Week in Testing. I'm your host, Simon Tomes, community lead here at Ministry of Testing, and it's a privilege to get to host this one today. So hello to everybody listening. Thank you to those folks who keep coming back, and welcome to our new listeners, and also those listening to this via our podcast. Very nice to have you here today. So just a few little things before we get officially started. This is a Ministry of Testing event, so it has an official code of conduct, which you can access at ministryoftesting.com. Head to the footer and look for the code of conduct there. So if you do come up on stage, please be mindful and respectful of that code of conduct. If you're also joining us on stage a little bit later, ensure that you have given your browser, if you're listening to this via a web browser, permission for LinkedIn to access your audio. I've had a few missed opportunities to get people up on stage over the last few weeks due to permissions issues. So just be mindful of that. If you do put your hand up and join us on stage, you just have to give the browser some permissions. So this is a way for us to connect at the end of the week. I hope you've had a good week and things have been good for you. Nice and busy, lots of good testing activity, lots of learning, lots of connecting. And now's a good opportunity for us to continue that learning and continue connecting with each other within the testing community. So yeah, in a bit, there'll be an opportunity to come up on stage and perhaps you could share something that you've been up to this week. Maybe you've learned something new that is interesting for folks to hear about, or maybe you want to ask a question to the audience today and see if someone in the audience can help you or at least follow up after today's This Week in Testing. But I got a message from Ben Dowen about 5 minutes before we went live today. And Ben was like, hey, do you want to co-host today? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to bring Ben up on stage, see how Ben's doing, and then I'm going to debrief with Ben some of the stuff that's been happening this week, and we can have a little chit chat and get some folks up on stage as well. So Ben, hello. Thanks for your message. That was very nice to hear from you and a great idea to co-host this together.
Hello, Simon. Great to hear from you. So, yeah, thank you for allow me to sneak my way into a bit of cheeky co-hosting.
Of course, anytime. I very much enjoy co-hosting with you. It's a good honor. You've always got lots of good stuff to share, and you're very good at encouraging people up on stage and listening to them and asking questions. So yeah, it's great to chat with you. So maybe shall I maybe share some things, Ben, and do you want to comment on some of the things that I've been spotting this week, or do you want to start off with maybe some ad hoc stuff that you've been spotting as well? What would you like to do?
Absolutely, Simon. Do you know what I'm going to ask you? I'm going to ask you, Simon, how is This Week in Testing?
Not well, as you just asked, Ben. Let me do a quick rundown. nicely prompted there. So what are we seeing? Wow, well, we've got more meetups happening across the globe now. So yeah, there was a new New York meetup happening on the 17th of October. So exciting. That's getting started. So lovely to see that get itself established, which is very cool. It was nice to see a comment from Rosie Sherry, who's the CEO and founder of Ministry of Testing, just putting it out there on the Ministry of Testing Slack that she just loves seeing the quality of the articles that are going out that are written by the community, and just wanted to say thanks to people that put themselves forward and work with our editors to create really good articles on ministryoftesting.com. So she's grateful for that, and I wanted to amplify her words. And it's a reminder for people to contribute. If you feel like, you know what, I do a bit of writing myself, or I want to get into it, I've got topics to share that I have experience about or that I'm currently exploring, do consider contributing. I know, Ben, you found many ways to contribute to the community, and I know you get real joy from doing that, and you get good excitement from that. So yeah, very much encourage people to put themselves forward. You can go to ministryoftesting.com/contribute to get stuck in. talking of people who have been contributing, we have put the TestBash Brighton 2024 talks slap bang on the Ministry of Testing homepage. So if you head over to ministryoftesting.com, you can get instant access without having to navigate anywhere. Just scroll down a bit on the homepage and you'll be able to find those talks. We've got 19 in total. There's a whole variety of stuff in there to go and explore. So if you attended TestBash, you get access to that. If you have a Ministry of Testing professional membership, you get access to all of those talks, plus the complete archive that we have available on the site. There's a lot of stuff to dig into, and maybe you want to set up a little watch party with your team members, or you want to host watching one of those talks at one of your meetups. These options are all there, right? Kind of spread the knowledge, celebrate these awesome community people who are putting the effort in to craft these wonderful talks and actually get the confidence to step up on stage and do their thing. It really takes some doing, and it's impressive that people continue to do so. Talking of which, we got a couple of talks related to conferences. So how to get the best out of the testing conferences, that is now live from a Testing Planet, another event that we host here at Ministry of Testing, plus another talk on how to gain confidence in public speaking. Those are worth checking out. And all of this stuff I will include in next week's newsletter, which we are calling MoT Weekly. We're going to rebrand it as of next week. So do keep your eyes and ears open for that newsletter next week. Ben, jump on in.
That is so much exciting news, Simon. And I just wanted to add on about the cool stuff from TestBash. I really just wanted to add on a shout out to Tom Game, who in fact, the side note, the reason I wasn't at last week's This Week in Testing is because I was having a little bit of a chat with Tom and supporting him. Why? Because Tom is going to be doing a talk internally within his company to do a bit of a giving back session on his experience from TestBash Brighton. And this is going to be really cool for all his colleagues who get a little bit of a taste of what Tom learned from TestBash and spread a little bit of that love. And I just wanted to add on top of what you were saying about all the people who contribute to the Ministry of Testing community, that one of the great ways to contribute as well is when you find some of that content from the testing community, wherever that is, but especially from Ministry of Testing, finding ways to share that with your colleagues, with your fellow testers and developers and product people and anyone else who will find them interesting, and consuming that content and relaying it is a really, really great way to engage. And those kind of more kind of internal talks can also be a great way to boost your confidence to then go and join in and do a bit of a contribution in the community as well.
Love it, Ben. Absolutely. I've also found that kind of concept of sharing, where if maybe you're summarizing what you've seen on behalf of a group of people, it's a really powerful learning tool as well. Because I think, we can all summarize stuff in many different ways. And one way's version of summarizing some notes or someone else's interpretation is like, oh, I hadn't spotted that, or I hadn't considered that angle before. So that's when like the extra bonus good stuff comes from kind of consuming how someone else has consumed someone else's work. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I also find that sometimes when I introduce topics to my colleagues, they then reflect that back to me. So it might be that I'm introducing a topic that I saw for the first time, and then I actually find out that they have some kind of prior experience, or they've seen some kind of other bit of content out there that I might never have known, that they might never have shared. So there's this great amplifying effect that when you share something, the community shares back with you, whether it's an internal or an external community. So it's always worth sharing, because what you get back can be a real treat.
I love it. I think that could be your post for today, Ben. Those exact words, just that one-liner. It's always worth sharing because you don't know what treat you'll get back. I love that. Very cool. What else have we been happening? It's been happening. Oh yeah, some more meetup action. We saw that Yaroslav Yerekin and his MoT Vancouver meetup. They went on another QA Trail Talks, which is brilliant. I love that concept. So in MoT Vancouver, they go for a little walk as a group of people, and they just have chit chats as they go for their walk. Weather depending, of course, this is a wonderful idea just to get out and about, keep healthy, and have good conversations at the same time. So yeah, very cool, Yaroslav, and perhaps that could influence some of the other meetups across the globe to get out and about with their meetups. Talking to the community as well, and people just being very supportive of what the community stands for and what it's up to. It was lovely to see a very kind testimonial, a testimonial, as we call them at Ministry of Testing, and the pun is intended, from James Wadley. So James is doing wonderful things with the community, and just, yeah, if you kind of head over to the membership page, you can see that from James. I won't kind of give it away, but there's some lovely words celebrating the community and the wonderful bunch of people that exist as part of that community. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, James. And you reminded me, Ben, Tom Game. Yeah, it's really cool that Tom's fully going for it with his moderately new career in software testing. So I think if folks aren't following Tom Game on LinkedIn, or perhaps haven't connected with Tom via the Ministry of Testing Slack, I recommend that you do so. I think he's up to something, and I mean that in a positive way. He's up to good things, and I think Tom's going to be one of those people in the community that we keep an eye on and support and encourage. Just, yeah, really up for it, and seems like a good person to kind of support each other and to be part of this community. So yeah, thanks for reminding folks of Tom, Ben, much appreciated. Some other good stuff. I saw a couple of folks have started new positions. So Myla Rahivali, and apologies, Myla, for mispronouncing your surname there. We met in person for the first time actually in TestBash. So she has started a new position as a senior QA engineer at Rush Street Interactive. So bug congrats to you, Myla. And also bug congrats to Tina Gohill, who was a wonderful ambassador at TestBash. Tina has been promoted to a lead QA engineer at Hippo. Great news. It's great to see this career growth. It's great to see that folks are landing new positions. Couple of jobs that we spotted, that Kim Canup has shared a job role, not where she works, but of a QA manager role. So I'll make sure I include that in the MoT Weekly next week. Gwen Diagram shared that Glean, a company based in the UK, are looking for an exploratory software tester. And the Dockler are hiring a senior test engineer. So if you connect with Dan Casely on the MoT Slack, Dan can share more information about that role and opportunity. But yeah, seeing more opportunities pop up here and there. You know, we're fully aware that there are still plenty of folks out there looking for who are open to work, and we are putting data together about that as Ministry of Testing. So every month we try and get a sense of people that are saying they are open to work, and we can do some analysis on that. So folks can get access to that via our trends site of Ministry of Testing. So you can see that in the header. If you head over to ministryoftesting.com, select trends, and you get access to all sorts of data insight. So we collect so much data, and we see lots of things happening in the community. We try and summarize that and present it back to you too, so it can support the conversations you're having both within your companies and outside of your companies. Ben, how about some other things that you may have spotted this week?
What a good question. What have I spotted this week?
Anything lighthearted? Let's go with a lighthearted one. Any silliness?
Do you know one silliness that I saw this? Well, so there's a really cool thing that's happened in the UK for anyone who doesn't know in the UK, and it's not really testing related, but it is amusing, and that is with the rise of AI. Some of you may have noticed this week the episode last night. I'm trying not to give any spoilers because it was only last night for those live on the call, of the TV show Taskmaster. And I love Taskmaster from a tester point of view, because it's really game about the misinterpretation of requirements with comic effect. That's really the summary of what it's about. And they had a task that where they bigged it up as, okay, we've got this like live real AI robot. I mean, of course, it was Alex dressed up as a robot, but I really loved how the task was all about giving instructions to this AI robot to take it to its charging station, but with some rules, arbitrary rules, like there's certain letters you can't use in the words that you're using, and you have to give instructions every 10 seconds. And I thought it was a really kind of cool reflection, in this like life imitates art, where the whole kind of groundswell of hype around AI is starting to go mainstream to the point where it's entering comedy and it's entering primetime TV. That's just a really interesting kind of gauge of where things are at. It's not fringe anymore. It's starting to become, whether people actually know what it is debatable, but the idea of it is becoming very mainstream, very day to day, which I found fascinating.
Absolutely. That's a great observation. And definitely I need to go and check out that episode. I think I'm on the end of last season, so I need to catch up with this season. But yeah, Taskmaster is a brilliant program. And we watched the beat version because my kids love it as well. So just to make sure that they don't hear the odd rude word here and there.
I love how it's developed the fact that they can. It's so popular they can release two versions. One with this censored bleeped version, and one that's the grown-up version. It really shows how it crosses those generational boundaries, but with the little caveat. And I think that's really funny. How it's kind of a good celebration of comedy that they're able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, kind of the world of AI entering the mainstream and that being reflected in comedy. I think comedy, maybe we're going off a bit of a tangent here, but just that reflection that it can reflect on what's happening in society and make it lighthearted is a good thing. And I think that can like remind us that yes, as a testing community, we are very much in a bubble. And it's important for us to look outside that bubble and see what's going on and how that can influence what we do as a profession and what we do as a community, and bring in things that are happening elsewhere in the world into our world. Talking of which, I properly laughed out loud when Rosie posted a new meme on our site. So we now have memes. You can add a testing meme, anything to do with product development, just to keep it light and entertaining. And this was the meme where there's like it says how products are really made. I don't want to ruin it, but so I kind of encourage you to go search it out. Just look for ministryoftesting.com/memes, and you'll probably find it. But it goes through 3 images of planning, development, and production, and it involves a pizza, and it's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, Ben, I think you'll very much appreciate it.
I'm rushing to look it up in the background.
Oh, that's brilliant. But yeah, I think while we can kind of dismiss memes as a bit of fun, I think, they are a clever communication tool. I think we can use memes to learn as well. We can learn about what we do as testing professionals and where we fit in the bigger picture of product development. So, I'd recommend folks, you all have access to add a meme. So if you spot a good testing meme or you fancy creating one, please do upload it on ministryoftesting.com. You can add a bit of a commentary. So maybe you've got a story behind the meme, or you want to express something extra than the meme itself. Maybe make a serious point off the back of the fun meme. Please do go for it. If you head over to ministryoftesting.com/memes. Ben, have you found it? I can give you the URL. If you put /memes/78, it's the 78th meme. You should be able to see it there.
Thank you. I'd got as far as the page, but not the. Oh yes, that's a good one. I won't spoil it. Do go look it up for yourselves because that's worth it.
Brilliant. Well, keeping it light, but we don't have to always keep it light during this week in testing. We can get into serious discussions here, and we can keep it light as well. But I reckon, Ben, what do you reckon? Should we invite some folks up onto stage to join us? I mean, it'd be lovely to speak to our audience today and see how they're doing and find out about their week in testing.
I think that's a great idea. So yeah, let's see who we can get up. And I'm just going to throw it out there to have a think while you're putting your hands up. I wonder if anyone in the audience has seen either AI in real life or something about software or testing in real life that they have to reflect on this week.
Oof, that's a great question. But I think I saw Neil Taylor. Ah, Neil, wonderful. Let's get Neil up on stage. They put their hand up. Neil, welcome. Thank you for joining myself and Ben up on stage today. How has your testing been? Oh, Neil, if you're looking for that mute button, from this side we can see that you're still muted.
So perhaps... you can hear me now.
Yay.
It's going to work now.
We're in.
Talking to myself.
That's fine.
What was I going to say? Yeah, no, I've been doing a fair bit of exploratory testing with our products and performance testing, and also trying to get my head around Jenkins because we've got to move from Bamboo to Jenkins, so that's going to be a fun process. But hopefully there'll be some interesting stuff with the automation in amongst all that. I've got a cunning plan to try and learn some Playwright, which is one that I actually did did Ben's workshop at TestBash. And was completely lost. So I need to start from the base up and work my way up. So that's kind of been most of my week. Apart from that, I was going back and revisiting some of the talks from TestBash. And it was I've only managed to watch a couple so far. The one I decided to watch last night was the Bill Matthews one on AI, testing AI, which went into quite a lot of detail. But I think it's quite a sobering one to listen to if you haven't listened to it. I guess, looking at the less light-hearted side of AI. I think that's definitely worth everyone watching. I just unfortunately clashed, I think, with one of the other workshops I was doing at the time. So I've rewatched that one. I also rewatched Antonelli's talk, although that was last Friday. That counts as this week. But I'd also noticed what you've got a lot of on Ministry of Testing is these collections of particular areas or talks from previous test bashes on one particular area. I think the collection that one was in the mental health one. So those kind of things I've been kind of picking up on this week, I guess.
What a week, Neil. It sounds epic.
I've done too much. I've talked too much.
No, it's brilliant. I mean, honestly, it sounds like so much to explore there. I mean, even going back to the decision of moving from Bamboo to Jenkins, perhaps diving into that, and then it's so cool that you got to be part of Ben's workshop as well. I guess there is a good number of things out there about Playwright. Including stuff from Butch Mayhew. Just thinking off the top of my head, there's a good Ask Me Anything about Playwright, I believe.
Right, you reminded me. I was to see
that. So that's worth checking out as well. But indeed, Bill Matthews stuff, yes. Bill kind of last August, I think it was. Maybe it was prior to that, not August. I can't remember the month this year. It goes so fast. But we ran a 30 days of AI in testing. Oh, it was March. I believe it was March this year off the top of my head. And Bill helped us craft those 30 days of AI in testing. And it's brilliant. For folks can still take it now. You don't have to go back in time, so to speak. But if folks search for on ministrytesting.com, 30 days of AI, just 30 days of AI, but it's 30 days of AI in testing. You can retake those 30 days, and there was so much good stuff shared. It was very popular. Lots of people got involved, and there's all sorts of little tasks for anyone. And this is to all of our listeners to get yourself into the world of AI and testing. Getting to the stage where it's try some prompting, try this tool, try this LLM, and that kind of thing. It's really cool.
Yeah, the one thing that does bother me more than anything else is the security side of it, because obviously this idea you're not going to if you're going to talk, you're going to get some responses from AI and you're going to ask a load of questions. Obviously, you can't put your own domain specific stuff into it because obviously that's kind of proprietary information, etc. So that is a big deal, and it's interesting for me because a lot of this is about things online, like maybe actually being able to have a tool that is internal to your company where which it can gather data relevant to your context. You see what I mean? Might be quite a to my mind, that's possibly a very likely use case for it, because there may be companies where you don't want that information to go outside of the company and you actually want to learn from your own knowledge. Because if you think about it, if we're asking AI to help you with testing, it needs to understand the context of the software that you develop. You see what I mean? So that's an interesting one for me. And from many companies have security concerns over AI, and they don't want to let certain amounts of data out. So that's quite an interesting thing.
Neil, it sounds like you've learned quite a lot there from Bill and going and watching the talk, and like you've had a hell of a week. Very cool.
Well, it doesn't feel like a lot, actually. I haven't got to Friday, but no. But
it sounds like plenty, Neil. I was just wondering, and then maybe we can get some more people on stage. I was just wondering, having learned a whole load of this stuff, do you have any plans to share that with others? I mean, obviously you've done a brilliant job by stepping up on stage today and sharing things.
No, well, I did. I wrote the first blog for about 8 years. What was that? That was about TestBash. That was quite high level. I didn't really get into that because my trouble is I take notes. It's quite nice to go back and listen to some of the other bits. But yeah, it's picking a topic and then getting enough detail and feeling confident enough to write about it. I suppose I find it easier if you kind of maybe reflect on, I guess, what you took out of it rather than worrying too much about the detail. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I need to decide. There's at least one of those topics. There's something worth writing about for sure.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely a very good instinct there, Neil. That making it relatable and sharing it to others of this is what I got from it, and then directing people to the content is a really great way of sharing things rather than trying to assimilate every bit of information and replay it is a challenge, but it's also not always necessary, because you can always figure out ways to plug people into that content.
Definitely.
So, but getting that, sometimes people are hesitant because there's so much out there. There's an infinite number of things people could bring their attention to. So, understanding what you got out of it can help someone decide if they want to put the effort in to do the learning. And that's really the hook that I try and use, is just try and say enough about what I got out of it to let people understand, is that worth it for me or not?
Yeah, agree. Yeah, definitely.
Right, Simon. Let's see if we can get someone else up, and feel free to stay on stage, Neil, and continue the conversation.
Let's do it. Let's bring Iziren. Hey, good to see you again, Iziren. How's your week in testing?
Good day, Simon. Good day, Ben. Neil. Good day. And the rest of the team. Good day. My week has been busy. I completed my training on JMeter. I went to try my hand on some performance testing. I've completed some projects in-house, but I really want to get into the game and learn more. More so, just like Neil said, Playwright, it has been going around, and I said, let me try my hand on it. This week, I downloaded the Playwright app. I did my first test, and it's so sweet. Just like Cypress, I'm enjoying it. I need to dive deep into the deep waters to see what it can help me in terms of the UI test for the front end. Before I kind of step down, I said I will invite some of my colleagues, and they are here with me. Some are shy. Well, but I will just introduce their name. Rashid is here. Nkechi is here, also known as Enki. These are QAs, and I need to push them into the community for them to get more support from other testers. That's just what I have to say. Thank you. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, everyone.
Loving it, Iziren. And welcome, Enki and Rashid, to This Week in Testing. It's lovely to have you here. And yeah, please do. Yeah, you're now part of the Ministry of Testing community. You're now part of the testing community. If maybe it wasn't on your radar, Iziren, thank you for bringing some of your colleagues and friends with you. That's awesome. Very much appreciate that. And yeah, exciting that you're going down the Playwright rabbit hole, or potentially have the opportunity to go deeper into the rabbit hole of Playwright. Very cool.
Big fan of Playwright. I'm not going to go into the detail, but I've been having some fun this week looking at using Playwright for visual regression testing, and it's an awful lot of fun. The utility and just how fun it is to use. I have sympathy for you with the JMeter stuff. I try not to remind people that I've used JMeter before, in case they try and get me to use it again. So good luck with that one. Please don't ask me for help, but there's plenty of other things out there.
I want to diversify. Being a performance tester, being a functional tester, I just want to diversify into being performance tester, and my target is security testing and pen testing. So I feel that area of functional testing is being too crowded. I just need to diversify in space and specialize myself in one area of software testing.
It's very worthy, Iziren, and all jokes aside, it's a very powerful tool, and in all honesty, it's not really about the tool. As you say, the actual field of performance testing can throw up an awful lot of useful information. So it's a really great journey to go on.
And that's a good reminder, Iziren, around, I guess, the challenges we face as professionals of like, what choices do we make around going specialist, kind of going really deep on a specialist approach to testing, or becoming like more of a generalist, or having like a mixture of a shape of both specialist and generalist. And it's something that came up earlier this week. I was reviewing some of the content that we're putting together for the software testing essentials certification that we're working on here at Ministry of Testing. And we cover that topic, like just reminding people who are new to testing that there's many avenues you can go down, many routes. Sometimes you're not going to know right away as a new professional to software testing. So it was great for us to make sure that goes in there as part of the course, to remind folks that everyone goes on a different journey when it comes to their career. Some people become really niche specialists, others become much more generalists, and everywhere in between. So yeah, it's a good reminder, Iziren, and it's cool that you're exploring all of that right now with your career. Very cool indeed. Ben, shall we bring up Oleksandr?
Yes. You've
good stuff.
Been a valued speaker on This Week in Tester a few times, Oleksandr. It's very cool to have you back again.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Hi, everybody. Hi, Simon, Ben, Neil, Iziren. So I have a lot of things that I want to talk on the topics that we are talking right now. First of all, at the start of conversations, we mentioned memes and why it is valuable. One thing that I have about memes is that memes, and actually memes around software testing, I think it's like a unit of wisdom that we spread between us, and it is practical. In most cases, it's based on our practice, on our pains, or on our some funny situations, but it's always practical, and it helps to understand the world of testing better and the real job better. And I have funny thing about Playwright. So I was mostly involved in Java, Scala, Python throughout my career, and the last time that I was involved in web automation, it was using Java and Selenium, the driver at that time, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember it was like good, but there were a lot of struggles, a lot of like really hard things that you need to re-implement from scratch. But actually today I just watched a few master classes about Playwright on TypeScript just for my curiosity, and I want to first of all say that like it evolves and it makes testing so much easier, because out of the box it has a lot of opportunities to just run tests in parallel and do a lot of stuff. So it's like a magic thing that just works, and you can just start to write tests from, let's say, after 10 minutes. And for me especially, it helps because I'm using like in my work, I'm using GitHub Copilot from like this AI for coding tool, and it really helps me to write Playwright tests really quickly, because it scans the project and just offers me like how to do major things, and actually removes a lot of stuff that I'm doing, like a lot of typing. And speaking about AI in general, I think that yeah, I think Neil mentioned it. The context is really matters, and I think AI tools lack the context because it's like totally impossible to share the full context of your project with any AI tool. Some of the context can be shared, but not all. And I think the biggest problem, well, not a problem, it's like challenge with an AI tool in any kind, is how can we validate the output of AI instruments, because it can generate a lot of useful things, test data, test cases, a lot of things, or it can even just analyze requirements and do some wonderful things. But how can we make sure that the things that this AI tool produced, is it valid or not? Is it good or bad? And this is the thing, especially when you are just starting your career. It may feels that it is like magic. You don't need to learn test design techniques at all, because you can just throw a thing into AI and it will produce test cases for you. But you need to learn all of these techniques and all of these things by yourself, because you need to judge the output of AI, and it is hard. But yeah, we need to do it anyway. That's it.
You make a very good point, actually, about forgetting how to. One of the things that worries me with AI is people don't. Well, it's a worry, I suppose, from a development point of view. Do people tend to lean more on the AI than actually really learning how to write code, program, etc.? And I said the same's got to apply to testing. You still got to understand those basics. So I think it's important that those aren't lost. AI is not seen as some quick solution to learning stuff and just giving you the answer. I think so that concerns me, because there are certain skills that people may not want to pursue because it's a lot easier to get information out, and there's a danger you rely on that more than your kind of skill set, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, totally. I just remember that it was a post in LinkedIn from one of the software engineer, and in this post he stated that he deliberately turned off all Copilot or AI tools because he just started to forget how to write simple code, and the AI made him just lazy and unproductive.
I think it's a really interesting topic. I think it's also not a new topic that's been introduced with AI. I've actually remember having had this conversation a number of times before over the years, with high-level programming languages, where people were like, "Oh, C# is going to dumb us all down because now we don't have to deal with pointers," and then having the conversations about IDEs that do type checking and code completion are a terrible idea because now we're not going to remember that we have to do these things. And I think it's really interesting how that and there is truth to all of this, but it's also really interesting how as things evolve, those things that are risky because they're new, that parts of it that where those risks are more genuine and lasting get resolved, right? Those things actually get dealt with because they become engineering problems and some clever person just deals with them eventually, and that becomes the market winner. And those things that were only a problem because there was doubt and that things were uncertain, eventually people get used to them, and they get used to them because there's more familiarity, there's more education, and we get onto them. And I share the sentiment of the worrying that we should have more people who know more about the things underneath. But I also know, for example, that okay, I happen to know a whole bunch of stuff about infrastructure and DNS and how virtualization works. But there's loads of my contemporaries who are joining the industry now who know about cloud computing and have no idea how the infrastructure underneath works. And you know what? Unless you want to become an infrastructure engineer for a cloud provider, that doesn't matter anymore. You don't need to know all that stuff that I used to learn. And I think it's going to be really interesting over the next 5 or 10 years to see which parts of using AI become comfortable and which things that we continue to reject because they're lazy and sloppy and they're not actually helpful. Interestingly, by the way, the same thing happened with schools and learning math and calculators. And now the meme is that we all do have a calculator in our pocket everywhere we go.
Absolutely. That's a really good observation there, Ben. I think it reminds me of this conversation of Louise Gibbs. We had a chit chat at TestBash, and then she followed up with a club post called Investigating the Impact of AI-Powered Tools on Collaboration. And her concern kind of connected to yours there, Neil, that she was worried about like relationships within a team. So, do people go, well, I used to ask my developer colleague over here, but you know what, I'll just ask, Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whoever. And therefore, there's potential risk for just kind of disconnecting from the actual people that you're working with. So there is she put a post out on the club with a really good survey on it. So if you search for Investigating the Impact of AI-Powered Tools on Collaboration, which is a good reminder for me to follow up with Louise with those results to see what the outcome was, because I can't remember seeing a reply to that. But it'd be fascinating, to see what folks think about what impact this will have on actual human collaboration, not just with AI itself.
Speaking of connecting with people, Simon, we have a lot of hands up still. Shall we see if we can quick fire get a few more people on stage?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, good time check there, Ben. Thanks for checking in. We got 14 minutes to go. So let's bring Paul Maxwell. Thank you, Paul, Maneesh, and Ollie for being so patient with your hands up. But we're going to jump on in with Paul.
Hey, hello again. How are you?
Doing well,
Hi,
thank you, Paul. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Ben. Good to see you again. Just on the topic of AI, I just want to say Neil mentioned a point earlier about how to protect proprietary data. How to maintain that sort of security, or how to say train with models but not have everything, not your company's proprietary data end up being used in learning in large language models. It is possible to host large language models locally. I mean, there are large language models like Gwen, and I think Llama 3 also has a local install, but I might be wrong, where you can you can host them locally and call them with through an API that's quite similar to the OpenAI API, which is kind of becoming the de facto standard in the industry. And therefore, you retain your own data. So, like Gwen is an interesting example. It's an LLM which was created by Alibaba, but it's small enough. But it's not got a massively large set of training parameters. It's not got billions of training parameters, but it is like 2 or 3 gigabytes in size or less. And therefore, you can actually host it locally, or host it within your own infrastructure, and then you can sort of retain that data and have it just train against an LLM that you control and that you have in your possession. So that's one way of doing it. Just on the topic as well of, I think that trying to standardize or deal with the fact that the output of LLMs is changeable. So you want something standardized, you can test against it. There are some new things that are coming out, like for example, standard outputs, which is part of OpenAI's GPT-4, GPT-4o and beyond, where you can express an output as a JSON object. And you can also do is through functions, you can pass in functions that OpenAI can ask you to retrieve data from your side and send back to call those functions with certain parameters, and then send those to GPT. So you don't just pass data through the prompt. There are other ways as well. You can do it through functions. You can also do it through retrieval augmented generation. So files in vector stores. So there is actually a bit of development in this area. I don't know if I made myself terribly clear. I'm sorry if I didn't.
You made yourself completely clear, Paul, and I really appreciate you sharing that. It's a brilliant reflection and loads of stuff for ourselves, the entire audience, to go and investigate and be like, oh yeah, we should go and check out that stuff, or perhaps we can reconsider some things that we already know. It makes me think, actually, when we talk about feeding a model our own data set, what that data would look like. Because I think it might have been Neil. Apologies if it wasn't yourself, Neil, talking about requirements and how do we make sure we could feed into requirements for some sort of analysis, or we can ask questions about those requirements. It makes me think about the challenges we face without AI. This whole knowledge that we share amongst ourselves as a team. Who knows what about certain systems, what's assumed, what's implied, what's explicit, and the challenges that come with that, regardless of what technology we're using. I always find that fascinating, and whether we will get to a point where it's possible to make everything explicit. That sounds a bit far-reaching and maybe a bit too futuristic, but it does make me think about that. The challenges we face just with human collaboration itself. About assumptions and what we do with information. So yeah, you got me thinking about that, Paul. So thanks.
Can I make just a comment about that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just to say, remember that LLMs work essentially as probability models. So essentially, what they do is they guess the probability. They are trained on large amounts of data, of textual data. And then basically they estimate the probability of certain words following existing sets of words. So their knowledge of what meaning is based on how words relate to each other. So I think that in a sense, what you would be, and the more probable words get spitted out by the LLM when it generates text for you through when you make a prompt. So in a sense, what I think, if you're talking about requirements, it would be more useful for applications that are already widely used, that have quite standardized ways of standardized requirements, if you will. Things that have been done many times before. That's the kind of thing that LLMs would work best with. If you give it very novel stuff, they tend to struggle because they just don't have that in their test data. Sorry, in their training data.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Jump on in, Ben. Go for it.
I was just going to say, this is a really interesting topic, and I'd like to talk about it loads. But I also know we've still got a couple of hands up, so I was going to prompt Simon to see if he wants to try and get one or two more on the stage. But I did want to say thank you, Paul, because this is a very cool topic, and it's a good point.
Thanks. I'll drop down to let somebody else come on.
Thanks so much, Paul. It's great to hear from you. Maneesh, let's bring you up on stage. And Ollie, we will get to you. We're going to make it happen. We've got two more potential speakers here, and we've got to make these things happen. So Maneesh, I'm just bringing you up on stage. Hooray, Maneesh, how's your week in testing?
Hey guys, happy Friday, by the way. My week has been good. There has been some good learnings. So, I mean, people were talking about Playwright AI, so that got me excited. So that's something I've been trying for the past couple of months now. So wanted to share few things that I've come across which have helped our team immensely. So one is, I mean, the obvious thing that everybody faces with test automation is flakiness of tests. So within Playwright, so I mean, we had a similar situation where some of our tests were failing and then they were, I mean, false negatives. So we wanted to come up with a solution to see how we can reduce the flakiness of tests. So one cool thing about Playwright, which we discovered this week is, so you know how we have this assertion, the expect statements within Playwright, and then it usually accepts a selector or a locator, and then you can add assertions on them. But it also accepts an async function where basically say if you have created a login function and then your login function fails because your application is taking a little too longer to load. So what you can do is within the expect function, you can pass in within the expect statement, you can pass in this async function and put that login function within it and then say to pass. So it will basically poll till the time that statement passes. So now you no longer have to rely on timeouts or extra expect statements. So this one statement will help you stabilize your tests. So that's one cool thing that we really we enjoyed implementing this week, and then it has been a game changer.
Loving it. That's a top tip, Maneesh, for folks who are diving into Playwright. So thank you for sharing that. That's very, very cool.
On a similar note, I also came across a new IDE. I don't know if people are aware of it. So I was a big fan of WebStorm, right? I've been using WebStorm for a long time. And then recently JetBrains, they have introduced Aqua, a new lightweight IDE within their group of IDEs. And then the advantage of Aqua is it has got some inbuilt tool capabilities. It has got inbuilt capabilities for Cypress, Playwright, Selenium, any major frameworks that are out there. One other cool thing about it is it has got integrated browser in it. So it will help you in running your tests and then identifying elements pretty easily. I mean, it's pretty cool if somebody wants to try it out. It's called Aqua, and then you get 1 year free license to just try it out.
These are great tips there, Maneesh. Feels like people are going to be scrambling after this call to go check out both of those things that you shared. That's very cool. It feels like Aqua is a far cry from the days of trying to spin up Selenium RC and getting them to launch some browsers, just getting lost in all that.
I know,
So,
right?
yes. Yeah. Indeed. So thank you for joining us, Maneesh. As we have 4 minutes to go, I'm pleased that Ben is keeping us on our toes here. Ben, should we get Ollie up and jump on in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Real.
Hello, is this working? Yes.
Yeah, jump on in, Ollie. Go for it, Ollie. I can hear you loud and clear. Good stuff.
Cool. I won't go with what I was originally going to say about because there's a whole conversation starter and there's 3 minutes. So there's something that I learned a number of years ago now from a book called The Chimp Paradox about emotional thinking and identifying it and managing it. And something that really stuck with me is the use of the word should. And I think in testing, we're guilty of overusing it, at least in software. But we don't always have to use the word should. We can use the word could instead. There's obviously times when something should do something, but there's also lots of opportunities where we could use the word could instead of should, because should has certain connotations to it of standards and holding people to account, and it can almost become a negative thing. So I guess just don't always use the word should. Use the word could if you can.
Top tip there, Ollie. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, there's some good things about language and its impact on how we collaborate as a team. Indeed, maybe that's one to start on. It could be a good club thread, actually, thinking about it. Kind of, while it can get quite sensitive and perhaps it might have the potential for people to get caught up on certain words, but I think it would be useful for us to gather a set of, like, sometimes you could say this and this is the outcome, whereas if you try say this can also be a different outcome. And maybe it's the subtleties of the English language and how we present that information, because I think it, how we bug report, how we present our findings, how we have conversations with people and suggest ideas is a skill that we learn over time as testing professionals. And I strongly believe it takes time to get to a stage where you can have good, inclusive conversations with people about improving whatever it is that you're developing, as a team.
Yeah. And to that point, exactly, with using could instead of should, it opens up conversations, whereas should is you're kind of shutting someone down almost. Yeah.
Well, I can confidently say I would really like to hear from you again on another This Week in Testing, Ollie, because you raised very good points.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be back. I'll be earlier next time.
Good stuff, Ollie. Well, thank you for joining us. Well, folks, we have hit that time. Ben, how did we go so quick? What happened?
I think we may have gone down some rabbit holes, Simon.
Indeed. Into a previous episode of This Week in Testing, you asked that great question. How do we know we've gone down a rabbit hole, and what do we do about it? Which, these are good things to acknowledge. And I think, the power of a time constraint works for us here. But the conversation doesn't stop, right? And taking action off the back of those conversations doesn't stop. So keep posting on LinkedIn, folks. I know we're on LinkedIn right now, and it's a good place to post. Start conversations, question things, have some good, healthy debates that are inclusive and friendly and supportive. We've got to keep doing this, right? It's how we move the craft forward. That's how we collaborate as a community. And this is just, one of the many things that as a testing community we can do, is to hang out on a Friday. So thank you so much to our listeners for jumping in today, and also to everyone who's joined us on stage. Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure co-hosting with you again. I'm loving it. We should do this more often.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's been a pleasure, and enjoy your weekend, everyone.
Yes, have a lovely weekend, folks, and we'll all speak soon. Bye for now.